You're listening to Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library Podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Overdoing It, where our team of library workers dish about their latest reads, views, and passions, alongside fascinating conversations with local luminaries. I'm your host, Tayla, and the branch librarian at the Oaklawn Branch Library, and my pronouns are she, her. Let's dive in and discover who our guests are today.
Hi, I'm Alicia Vandering, and I'm the head of instruction at the University of Rhode Island, a position that I just started this summer. Before that time, I was our student success librarian, and that's where I engage with a lot of the work we'll be talking about today.
I am Dymond. I'm currently a research and instruction librarian at Bryant University. I've been here about 3 years. I work with all of our students through a variety of liaison areas, as well as I adjunct teach. I've taught honors research methods, and I currently teach the Gen 100 class, which is our student success class for first-year students.
And I'm Olivia Jones. I am the Special Programs and Instruction Librarian for the Salve Regina Library in Newport, Rhode Island. I've been here for a year tomorrow, which is exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I do a lot of different types of work on campus, teaching classes and different instruction sessions for different departments here on campus. And I help out a lot with the first year writing classes that we offer here, as well as our Pathways program, which is where I work a lot with incoming students.
All right, so a little bit later in the show, we will talk about the work you all have been doing at your respective libraries to help first-generation college students succeed in their college careers. But before we jump into that, let's start off as we always do with what have you been reading?
What haven't I been reading? Olivia is a reader. I am a reader. I'm just going to take the time to go first. I'm currently reading like 3 things at a time, which is normal for me. I am a huge Sarah J. Maas girly. So I am at the almost end of Crescent City 3, which is chaotic, as the last like 200 pages of all her books are. And I'm like, what is happening? And then I just re-listened to Fourth Wing because my next start is going to be Iron Flame because Onyx Storm is coming out. I don't know if you know, but I'm a big romantic-y girl, as you can see. And then for one of my book clubs, we're reading The Christmas Fix, I think it is, by Lucy Score, which I haven't opened yet, but it should be interesting. So that's what I got going on.
I can go. So I've been in a little bit of a reading slump. So I did reread my favorite book, which is Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. So to sort of get out of my slump, I started reading Brooklyn by Tracy Brown. It's kind of like a murder mystery. That's part of a new book club I just joined. So hopefully it's not really my genre, but hopefully I can get into this book. And then on my to-be-read list, which has been on my list for like 2 years, is The Love Songs of W.B. Du Bois. It's a really long book, but I think I'm going to like it. So that's what I'm reading.
So my reading usually follows along with like 2 different tracks. I have reading that I have to do for my research. So one of my big research projects is into queer representation in children's picture books. So I sit around and get to read children's books as part of my research, which is really delightful. So I've been doing that. And then I'm also doing a project on reflective teaching. So some case studies that are related to that. For my fun reading, so unlike Dymond, I'm actually a big mystery buff. I love reading mysteries so much. So I read Louise Penny's new book, The Grey Wolf, which I absolutely loved. It, thank goodness, was not quite as intense as her last one, which had like my body feeling inflamed because I was so stressed out the entire book. And then I'm also reading Jane Peck's The Rivals, which is a follow-up to The Verifiers. And it's kind of a mystery that follows a Chinese American young woman who's working for this company where they have to verify like match like .com type like profiles for people who are trying to romantically be matched up. And then they find out that the companies are doing some nefarious things in it. And of course there is a little bit of murder because it's a mystery, and what's a mystery without a little bit of murder? But they've been really fantastic and engaging books, a good queer protagonist, which I absolutely love. But I recommend both of those books.
Alicia, do you have any standout picture books with queer representation that are like really top of your list for you for people to check out?
I do. I made myself write them down because I knew my head would explode if you asked me and I didn't have them written down. So I love the Harry Woodgate books. So like Granddad's Pride, Granddad's, what's the other one? Camper is the other one. I love Kyle Lukoff books. So When Aiden Became a Brother, Call Me Max is really great. Love Violet, which is a newer one that came out in the last couple years, is also super, super sweet. But there's so many great ones that are out there.
I own all of the Kyle Lukoff titles. So that made me feel good that it wasn't like I was missing a bunch of really good titles. Own them here at the library. I don't personally own them.
No, they're fantastic though.
Yeah.
I would own those and I don't have any children and I would still keep them around my apartment just because I think they're so great.
They are. So I get what I've been reading, I think is a little bit more in the veins of Olivia's taste. Yeah, I've been dipping my toe into romantasy because I've been curious for a while about romance books, and I liked fantasy from before, so I felt like romantasy would be like a way to help me kind of like transition into it.
Welcome. It's going to take over your whole life.
Yeah. Basically, I'm afraid to start any of Sarah J. Maas's books because I know there's already so many.
Don't be scared.
That I'm just like, I don't know if I could deal with like an unfinished.
No, you can do it. There's so many to keep you busy. I promise. I promise. You email me. We'll talk about the order in which to read them because I have an order and it'll be great. Don't even worry about it, Tayla. It's going to be good for you.
But in terms of what I am reading, and I guess this is a little bit more, I guess, in the vein of maybe like urban fantasy, but it's Best Hex Ever.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I think I requested it like before Halloween, and I ended up like just getting it. So I was a little bit behind because it's set like kind of during Halloween time, but I'm still enjoying it. It's still hold on to that spooky time a little bit more. But the main character is a witch, but one of her past romantic partners, they had a really bad breakup and she ended up accidentally hexing her. So now everyone that she dates ends up getting hurt. So she's really afraid to get into any kind of relationship because she doesn't want to hurt anyone. And then this handsome man comes into a cafe that she owns. And there's like chemistry right away, but she's like, I got to forget about this man because of the hex.
Yeah.
And then that weekend, her best friend's getting married. And guess who the best man is? The handsome man from the cafe.
Of course. Who else would it be?
How could it not be? Oh, I love it.
So I'm like 3/4 of the way through. I don't know exactly how it's all going to wrap up with if she's going to be able to break the hex or whatever, but I've enjoyed it so far. It's been a lovely mix of like sweet and steamy. It's been, I think it's closer to like what I imagine romance novels are versus like the romantasy where there's like a heavy fantasy element.
Oh, I love that for you. That one sounds really good. It's like anytime there's like just a trope of like, of course he walked into my coffee shop, or oh no, we're traveling and the inn only has one bed. Sign me up. I eat it up every time. I eat it up every time.
Oh my gosh.
So bride and groom were scheming, and so they were having their wedding at this like old English like manor house, and there's like a little cottage off of the property. Guess who two got put in the cottage? Main female protagonist and our love interest. And the bride was basically just like, "Don't kill me, I'm the bride." Whoops,
it's nosy friends that are getting involved. Oh my gosh. I just every romantic book trope, I don't care how many times I've read it. Oh, enemies to lovers. Oh, it's the moment where they're like, who did this to you? In every book it's the exact same moment, and every time I'm like, yes. Happening right now. It's just good. It's just good. Comfort.
Yes. And it's funny, like, I feel like I know enough about the genre just from, like, other people talking about the books that I did, like, know all of these tropes, even though I don't read a lot of them. So I was kind of just like, oh, okay, now we're going to do this.
And it's going to be good for you. And I hope Alicia and Dymond are taking notes, because I will also be bringing you to the dark side.
I have some romances.
Yeah, I'm into romance too.
I love it.
All right. So besides reading, have you all been watching anything interesting lately?
The show I really like right now is Abbott Elementary. So it's just good comedy,
Yeah.
very lighthearted.
Yeah, I've been meaning to start that because it looks good. It gives me office vibes, which is like my favorite show.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm watching, well, not watching, we just finished season 2 of a show on Netflix. It's a Korean drama called Hellbound.
Ooh.
And basically, it's like I guess you would call it sci-fi. But everybody was like, really into like Squid Games when it came out, that show. And so we were
Mhm.
like, oh, like another like K-drama, like it'll probably be really well produced, like Squid Games, like let's watch it. So my husband and I started it. God, I think it came out like last year, like or maybe 2 years ago. And we watched the first season, and basically, like randomly, this like face comes out of nowhere and like says your name and says like you're gonna die on this date in like or like at this time, like whatever. And then these creatures at that time come and beat you up and then drag you to hell. Apparently.
Whoa.
Okay.
That's a lot.
It's so intense. And basically it's all about like this group that's founded by this guy who says like these are like decrees from God. It's because you've been living, not by our rules. And this is what's gonna happen to you. And so then it's like individual people's lives. There's like a cop who's like looking into it, the head of the like group who's telling all the people this, that's called like the new truth. And then like it's, shows different people who have all been affected. It is so good. It's insane. And so the second season came out and we just binged it in like a week. And now it's left off on like another cliffhanger, and we're just like, okay, we'll wait another 2 years for that to happen.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's like heavy, so you're like, wait, what is gonna happen? And it's very like thought provoking. Like, what would you do if this happens? Like, it's one of those things. It kind of reminded me of the book The Measure. I don't know if you guys remember that one that came out kind of recently.
I remember
It's like a
coming out.
yellowish cover, and basically one day
Yeah.
every single person in the world gets a box with a string in it, and it's like the measure of your life, like how long you're gonna live. And it's like all these different perspectives. So it's kind of similar, where it's like very thought provoking. So me and my husband are like pausing it every second, like, oh, what would you do? So, yeah, so it's heavy and crazy, but it's a drama, so it's like, it's not, there's really not a lot of, comic relief, but it is very good. So if you need a show on Netflix.
Well, I'm going to lighten our mood. So I am a big musical theater nerd. So I am still coasting the high of Wicked coming out. And went and saw it opening day and tried to figure out how many more showings I can convince my husband to go to with me. Luckily, he's also a big like musical theater person. So I think that it's probably a lot of showings if I'm being honest. But just my thing is, if I love something, I want to like watch it or read it over and over and over again. And my husband is like, I want to watch it once or twice and like savor it. So like he's seen my favorite things way more than he's seen his favorite things. And I'm pretty sure Wicked is going to be like that. But in addition to Wicked, I am a big fan of the show Ghosts, the American version.
Yes, I love that too.
I love it. I tried watching the UK version and I thought I would really like it, but I had a harder time connecting to it. But Ghosts, I can watch like over and over again, and it's like my mission in life to make everybody watch it.
Yeah, I love it. I gotta rewatch it now.
Yes. And then I've been watching the new Matlock show.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, with Kathy Bates. So that's been really fun because when I was little, I used to watch like the original with my grandma.
Me
So when
too.
the new one was coming, this is amazing. I love it. And so when the new one was coming out, I was like, this looks fantastic. And so I got really sucked into it. And I'm really sad that, oh no, there's a new episode coming out this week. So I don't have to wait too much longer. They took like a 2-week break and I was like, can't handle this.
Not me being the most morbid person here. You guys are bonding over these great shows, and I'm just like, yeah.
You had romance and fantasy.
Yeah.
Dymond and I need our moment.
Yeah, and I love that for you. And you're saying shows that I'm like secretly like typing over here, like, oh, I should look at that.
I know, it's reminding me of shows that I started, but then like I couldn't access the newest season because of we stopped. I think Ghosts and Abbott Elementary is because we stopped subscribing to Hulu, right?
Oh,
Is
I don't,
it?
I don't. I still have an antenna, regular TV with an antenna. So
Okay.
I watch.
And I ended up just buying the seasons on Amazon because I decided I was too impatient to wait for them to come out anywhere else. So I gave
Okay.
up. But I think we did have some weird delays from like they had like the strike that was just a couple
Oh,
years
right.
ago,
Yeah.
and that kind of shortened seasons and did some wonky
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Ghost I watched by borrowing from the library. So I get, but it was one of those things where I
Yeah.
borrowed everything that was out on
Mhm.
DVD, and then I had to be like, wait for the DVDs to
Yeah.
come out. And then, yeah, Abbott Elementary I was watching on Hulu, but then we stopped subscribing to Hulu. So now I have to figure out how I can watch it.
Simon was like, I'm watching
That
it
one's really
live.
good too.
Yes. So I'm
No,
old
that's
school.
great.
I watch it when it comes out. I'm old
Love
school.
it.
But Olivia, if you want me to make again to make you feel a little bit better, my partner and I have been watching the Equalizer movies, so lots of violence.
Okay, are those good? Is it terrible that I've never watched one?
Okay. If you like action movies, I think you will enjoy it. It's an enjoyable ride. The first one had a plot as flimsy as wet paper,
Got it.
but Denzel sold it. Like I
That's
was
the
there
thing.
every inch of the way with Denzel.
Yeah.
And then the second one, the writing was a little bit better, and I was like, I found the story very compelling. And Pedro Pascal was in it.
Listen.
Always love to see him in something. And then the third
Oh,
one,
there's 3 of them? Oh, wow.
yes.
Really going for it.
The third one's set in Italy. So, you know, beautiful filming locales and lots of subtitles. But also a little bit tropey because it is like, he's in Italy and the mob is ruining everyone's day.
Ruining everyone's day.
But yeah, like if you're okay with a mindless action movie
Yeah.
sometimes, I think you'll enjoy it. If you're like, where is our compelling plot?
She's like, look somewhere else. Well, that's like, okay, is anybody a fan of Gladiator? Like, I just saw Gladiator 2 with my husband.
Oh, how was it?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I had not ever seen the movie, like the first one, like in its entirety. I hadn't
What?
seen it.
I've never
And
seen it
so my
either.
husband sits me down and
You
he's
guys are
like,
killing me.
we're watching the second one in the theater. You need to watch this right now. Loved every second of it. I thought it was great. I was like, this is wonderful. I love like a period drama with, you know, violence. And so then we go, I don't really know how else to explain it. Then we go to the theater, Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, Paul Mescal. I was like, what is happening? Denzel was so good. All of the stunts were really dope, and the acting was insane. Did not expect it to take the turn that it did, and I recommend it 10 out of 10 stars.
I had a kind of similar thing. Like I only watched Gladiator somewhat
Yeah.
recently, and it was like kind of because my partner was like, well, Gladiator 2's coming out.
Yeah.
So like if we're gonna watch it, you probably should watch the first one.
Literally, and then you're like, wow, this is great, and it was so good. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I just kept getting stuck on like you just fall unconscious in your own property, and then slave traders just come and pick you up and take you away and ruin your
I
whole
was so
life.
confused. I was like, where are they taking him? Where is he going? Nobody knows who he is.
Like he's on his own property. It wasn't like he was in the
No.
street.
And that's why I was very confused. I'm like, how far away from any town is he living, for one? For two, like, so sad about his wife and his kid, but like, why are you just laying down there? I mean, he's just completely given up. Like, I mean, like, didn't run away. Like, he's just laying there. And then just everybody forgot about him. Like, I don't know. That part was, I was confused. But yeah, he's being carried away. I'm like, where's he going? My husband's like, we have to watch it. I'm like, well, who is that? I'm like, who are they? It was a
I
journey.
think he was hurt. That's why he laid
Yeah,
down.
he was. But at the same time, I'm like, you gotta help yourself, bud. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? They're not gonna come back to life. We've got things to do. Fine.
I want Olivia around if I ever have a crisis. That can-do attitude, that's going to drag me up. So this is awesome.
I'm like, listen, you guys, you gotta pull it together. They're not coming back to life. We gotta move.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I want us to have enough time to talk about what you all came here to talk about, which is the work you've been doing to help first-generation students succeed at your respective schools. So again, I think I'm just going to go in the order that I see everyone on the screen. So Alicia, what has URI been doing to help first-generation students?
Yeah, so at the URI Libraries, we have a really long-standing program with the Talent Development Program. That program goes back to 1968, and it helps students who are often first-generation students. They're students who are from other marginalized backgrounds as well. And with the library, we bring them in, so they have like a pre-matriculation program that they come in for during the summers. And the library has been a part of that for a number of years now, where we do kind of an orientation to the library. But as you can imagine, it's a little challenging because these new students come in, they're new to college, they're new to the library, they're not really at the point where they have classes that they're really invested in at that point. So getting them to learn about the library can be a little challenging because their heads are kind of exploding everywhere with excitement. So what we've kind of done the last couple of years is to try to gamify some of that instruction for them. We use something that are called the breakout EDU boxes. So it's kind of like an escape room in a box. And we have a game developed that has them use like the library catalog, our website, and some of our databases to explore and answer some clues that they use to open up the box and win the game. So that's one of the things that we've done. We do a lot of other outreach to our first year students as well. I know Olivia was talking about working with their writing program. We also work with our writing program. So a lot of the URI students take Writing 104 or Writing 106, and all of those sections of the classes come in to see us. So we work with, I think, a few thousand students that way each year. And so we have instruction that we do. That one's during the regular semester, and they have assignments. So it's a little bit more traditional in terms of library instruction. They're going into a database and finding some sources that help them answer a research question. But we've done some things to try to integrate more technology aspects to it. So we have like a Google Sheet that they work through during the class period that kind of lets them find and then analyze one of their sources.
All right, Dymond, what about you at Bryant University?
Yeah, so at Bryant, I've also worked with like sort of a similar program to Alicia. So at Bryant, we have the Alpha 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 Honor Society, also known as Tri Alpha. So we've worked with them to host a few different programs in the library. So we have a virtual reality lab here. So we've hosted like a senior sort of graduation night for the members of Tri Alpha. So Tri Alpha is Honor Society for first generation students. And I actually wanted to go back and sort of define what a first generation student is. So that's a student whose parents or guardians did not obtain a college degree. So, but going back to Tri Alpha, so we had a senior graduation night to bring them into the library for this program. So they got to experience some of our games and do like meditation and go on Google Earth. We've also had a discussion series event. So we hosted that with Tri Alpha and the Office of Diversity here at Bryant. So we invited students in to the Intercultural Center, and they discussed like any challenges that they've had with research or any questions they had about doing research. So that was really great to have the Student Research Association and just students just sharing their challenges with us and like seeing that other students are having similar challenges. And then also just to bring students into the library. We've partnered with the Forma program, so that's primarily for international students, but we do what's called the Cephalonian Tour for them in the library. So this happens in the summer, like welcome week, right before all the students start here at Bryant. So we give them a tour of the library so they're sort of familiar with the space before they get to campus, where everybody else gets to campus. And then just one last partnership we've had with first generation students. As well as student athletes. So we have study hall for student athletes here in the library. So they're getting exposed to library space. They get to see the librarians all the time when they come in for their study hall. So those are just a few things we have. And then we also do the writing program similar to Alicia and Olivia. Every Writing 106 class, or Gen 106 now, has a librarian go into that class at least once in the semester. So. And then, sorry, one more thing I forgot. As I mentioned in my intro, is that I'm teaching the Gen 100 class, so that's a student success class, and we do have a few librarians teaching that class, and that is for all first-year students that have to take that class. So I think we have about 3 or 4 librarians actually teaching in that course.
Fantastic. And Olivia, how about you over at Salve Regina?
Yeah, so Salve, just kind of in general, like at the macro level. We're partnered with Berkshire Bank to do a lot of first generation program funding and also funding for first generation scholarships for students who decide to come to Salve. And so our multicultural office for retention works a lot with them to kind of host events like first gen mixers to get like students, faculty, and staff together who are all first gen. So kind of just creating community. And then as far as librarians' role in kind of supporting the initiative of first gen students, right now at Salve also rewriting our curriculum. There's a lot of curriculum changes going on. So the current class that we have now is called UNV 101 and 102, which is now going to be first year writing. So we're kind of transitioning, and the instruction librarians are assisting the directors of the writing center in kind of helping to redevelop the curriculum and integrate library research instruction, which is really cool because we're kind of getting in like from the ground up and helping to teach those classes. And we're all assigned sections of those classes in the beginning of the year. We go in at least once or twice to each of those. And then myself and another one of the librarians here, Regina Connolly, we do a lot of work with the Pathways students. So Pathways is a department here at Salve run by the wonderful Ida Neary, who works with the local high school, Rogers High School, and she works with the sophomores, juniors, and seniors to go on college visits, to talk to different people about majors here on campus and at other institutions, to visit different local businesses, and then to kind of work towards them putting together their own research projects to talk about what is something they may want to study when they go to college, as well as kind of they're getting sort of the sneak peek into like what college research is like and putting something together. So recently this semester I went with them on an overnight to see a couple of colleges in Boston, which was really cool to see their excitement. And then Regina and I have been working with Ida to help them put together their research projects. So just ways that we're kind of supporting the initiatives that are happening on campus. And it's been really, really cool and rewarding. So it's been nice.
I think any program that allows high schoolers to get an idea of what they might want to do going forward is fantastic, because I think it's really overwhelming to be like, you're 18 years old, you just spent most of your childhood in like K through 12 education, where it's kind of very much just like you do these things because you have to, and to then being like, well, now you have to decide what you want to do with your life.
Yeah, it's been really cool to like be a part of and watch them kind of figure things out and decide what they want. Because the goal is for them to apply to colleges. Like, so that's most of what the seniors do, is they're working on their applications, their resumes, and like visiting last minute schools. And these are also kids who, again, they're first gen. So not only would they be 18 not knowing what's going on, but they don't have someone necessarily like a parent or guardian that's like, oh, well, this is what you do. Like as a first gen student myself, when I was applying for school, like I just had to figure it out. And talk to people, at my high school, but like, you're 17 and you're like, I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm talking about because all of my friends' moms are helping them apply to school or their dads. So it's just cool to like be a part of the greater campus initiative because we're so small here, and like kind of have all hands on deck of people really trying to support what the goals are of the university. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, one thing you really highlighted there that I really like, Olivia, is talking about how part of the goal is to connect with like high schools in the area as well and start, because if you get students as they're coming in when they're already first year students, there's so much that is already overwhelming them. But if you can get them when they're still high school students and you can start to introduce them to like some examples of what a college space might look like, what instruction in or curriculum in college might look like, you kind of start to break down those barriers and kind of silos between things and help it feel a little bit more cohesive. And then also they're there with like their peers all learning it at the same time in a place where it's good and beneficial to ask questions and flush those things out. And I just think that's so important. The writing program that I was talking about at URI that we do instruction for, a lot of the high schools do concurrent enrollment with it. And so we have a portion of each semester where the high schools all throughout the state of Rhode Island will bring their students in and they meet with somebody from the writing program who kind of introduces them to the college spaces. And they also come in for their library instruction session with us, where we do that same class for them that we offer for the classes that are on campus. But it's another way to start kind of breaking down, like, this is how college is a little bit different from what you're used to when you're in high school. And like the spaces look different and the curriculum looks different, the research looks different. But you start to kind of help them gain some familiarity there.
And that's what I love about TD too. Like, my sister-in-law is a TD student, and she's now a sophomore, and she is thriving at URI because of TD. But I also think, like, part of the idea of like kind of all hands on deck is like Dymond at Bryant. It's like there's so many supports, and that's something that Salve is working on, like creating, where there's multiple departments like getting involved to make this a priority. And so it's nice that like the three of us kind of can lean on each other and like use certain things as examples, because as much as we have like different demographics, it's like this is the one like group of students that like every school has.
Yeah.
To like make sure that they're being supported, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely lending that extra support and showing like how many resources there are on campus. Because some might not even think of like the library as a resource they have, but then just like partnering with these other programs and showing like, hey, this is a net that's here to support you.
Well, that leads me very nicely into what I wanted to ask next. For anyone who's listening who is going to be a first-gen student soon, or parents where they are hoping that their children are going to go on and go to college even though they didn't, who are listening, what is your advice for them of how they can go into college feeling like they have the supports to succeed?
I would just really quickly say take advantage of all the opportunities. Like there's a lot out there, so really get to know the resources and ask a lot of questions. Like there's no stupid questions. Everybody's there to help you. They want to see the students succeed. So just ask questions.
Yeah. I'd also add that one positive outcome of the pandemic, if we can call it that, is a heightened focus on like social emotional aspects of so many different things, but including the college experience. And I think now a lot of professors, librarians, other people who are active on college campuses, we know that you come in and it's new and that there's a lot that's really overwhelming, and we know that you need help navigating that, and we're eager to be there to help out with that. And one lovely thing about having so many different groups like who are focused on this, as Dymond and Olivia have been talking about, is that every student connects with like a different person or a different service or group. And so it's wonderful having so many different partners working towards this similar goal, because everybody kind of has somebody different that they can connect with. Because my approach with one student might not really match that student's need the best. Maybe they'll work better with somebody who's from athletics, for example. But what's wonderful when you have a whole team of people, hopefully there's somebody who will connect with each student, and we're really eager to do that.
Yeah, and for me, my bit of advice for anybody who's going to be a first-gen student is to remember that you belong there. You did the work to get yourself to college, which is no small feat. And to remember every single day that you do belong there. Don't let the imposter syndrome tell you otherwise. It happens to the best of us. Happens to me all the time. It's happening to me right now. But just remember that you've done something for yourself that nobody can take away. Education is something that people can't take from you. And that's my advice, is to remember that you belong there and you did the work, and you can do the work to stay.
I love that.
Oh, thank you.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So would you all, I mean, I think we're all a little biased here, but would you all encourage first-year students, even if they aren't going to one of the universities that you represent or colleges, to go to the library and find out what is going on there and what resources are there to help them?
Absolutely. The library is a hub of information, not just information on academics. It's a hub of information about a lot of things, including what's going on at that campus. I think Alicia and Dymond, you guys are similar to us. We're kind of like the heart of campus. All different people from campus come there for whatever reason. So I think that we are kind of the best equipped to, like, if we were to go back to our base idea of what a librarian is to put information in front of someone when they need it. So that's what I would think about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to help them, so we can point them in the right direction, either whatever they need help with. Like, we're here for that. So yeah.
Well, I also say, because like URI is like the public university of the state of Rhode Island, like it is in our mission to be there for anybody from the public. You walk into our library, we have computers that are open to anybody from the public. You can hop on, use our databases. So, I mean, it's a great resource, even if students end up at other colleges and maybe they're home during like winter intersession, but they're taking like a class online. They could always pop over to URI and use resources, which is really great.
Fantastic. So is there anything else that any of you would like our audience to know about the resources out there for first-gen students before we wrap up?
I guess just that, like, the resources exist.
Yeah.
There are people and there are departments on a campus that are there specifically for first-gen students. Whether it be one person or 10 people, there's somebody who is there. I think that's the biggest thing, is like the awareness that these supports exist.
All right. So we wrap up the show with a segment I call The Last Chapter, where we talk about a library or bookish related question. And I would thought, since we had some academic librarians on the show, that I would ask a question that I think feels a little more academic than some of our other questions, which is, would you rather only be... No, you're going to be fine.
Okay.
Would you rather only be able to read books published before the 20th century for the rest of your life, or only be able to read books published after the 21st century?
Before.
So you're holding on to old books.
I am.
Okay.
I'm really tempted to, because there's so many authors that I would have such a hard time saying goodbye to.
Yeah.
But I do feel like publishing is widening up so much, and there's so many perspectives we're getting now that we didn't before.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And I feel like to limit to before the 20th century would mean like there's whole blocks of people who basically you're not getting anything from them ever. Like, how many queer stories are you going to find, for example?
But that means no more Shakespeare, Alicia. What am I supposed to do?
Okay, you know who I don't want to give up? I don't want to give up Ella Montgomery, because I'm such a huge Anne of Green Gables fan. Could we bring like one pre-20th century?
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Bring a couple over. I guess I don't have an answer, because it's too hard.
It is hard.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I would say, I think after, for that very reason, because there's so many more authors out there now, I guess. I would say after. I don't know. It's really tough.
No, I gotta give up the new stuff, specifically just to like be able to read like the 18th century Gothic lit, which was like my favorite. It's so English major of me.
Oh, but I know giving up like the Brontes and that would be so hard.
That's what I'm saying. How am I supposed to give this up? Emma? I can't give up Emma. No, I will not. I won't. She is just a matchmaker, and I love that for her. And I will not give them up. No, I will not.
But if you were stuck with modern things, you could have modern retellings of those things.
Right.
That were more interesting and diverse. Maybe?
No, because I can make them diverse in my head and my imagination if I want to.
That's fair.
You know?
Olivia will just Bridgerton the show this thing and just imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll call my Roshonda and be like, "Hey, girl, let's go. We got some rewriting to do." But yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with the oldies. I'm
very torn too. When you brought up Shakespeare, I was ready to go 21st century, and then you brought up Shakespeare, and now I'm also very torn.
The sonnet?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
And to Alicia's point that you're saying about, well, you could read modern retellings. And I mean, I guess because we have all this question is assuming we're going in with all the stuff we've already read, that those retellings would resonate. But I'm thinking about the fact that like sometimes they do retellings for YA. And I wonder how much the kids are getting from it, because like they don't, I don't want to assume they don't know the source material. I'm not trying to like talk trash about Gen Z, but but just like that they might not be as exposed to the source material. Like, just imagine if Clueless was the only way that you knew about Emma. That would be wild, right?
Hey, but Clueless is amazing. Let's not dock Clueless.
It is, but it's only amazing because Emma was amazing. Like, somebody had to be amazing first. But it's like, that's the thing where I'm like, when, the kids are like, oh, I have to read, like, Romeo and Juliet, like I'll just read like a modern retelling. I'm like, they die. Like I'm and like they're leaving out the details. I'm like, she was like 12. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I need to burst your bubble so that you can appreciate this piece of literature. I must.
Hey, I did go see Anne Juliet on Broadway, which is a modern retelling where they get to live in the end.
Okay,
It was pretty fun.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah, but again, my point is like we can only really enjoy the modern retellings because we have the background knowledge of the original.
That foundation.
Yeah.
And I'm usually not a purist, but this is the one place where I will be. One area. This is the one question where I'm like, keep it. I love it.
I think I might have to do an Alicia and just a cop-out answer that I don't know. It's too hard.
Right? Hey.
I made you all answer a really hard question. Sorry.
Okay.
It was a good question.
It was.
Yeah.
I like
It's a good question. It's very thought-provoking. I feel like we can do a whole episode just about that.
All right. So thank you all for joining me, and thank you everyone for listening. If you would like to respond to our last chapter question or just reach out to the show, you can send us an email at overdoingitpod@gmail.com, and that's overdue like all the library books at my house. And you can find us on Instagram at overdoingitpod. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend and rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help us reach more Rhode Islanders. Overdoing It is proud to be a resident partner of the Rhode Island Center for the Book and is brought to you by library staff and community members all around the Ocean State. The project has been funded in part by the Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services. Thank you again for listening, and this has been another episode of Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library Podcast. We're overdoing it, but you're doing just fine. It's okay if the answer is no and we covered everything. I just want to make sure that we covered everything.